Then I start, Vibke. Good morning, everybody, and a very warm welcome to this the webinar. And it's a joint webinar with the FVE and Compassion in World Farming. And the name is BroilerNet's Key Takeaway on Health, Welfare and Sustainability. By the way, I'm Stefan Gunnarsson, professor at the Swedish University of Agricultural Sciences, and I have the privilege of being the coordinator of the BroilerNet project. So maybe we should turn off the microphones for... Okay, thank you. So events like today's webinar will help ensure that veterinary professionals across Europe remain informed and connected. And I would like to put your attention to that this webinar will be recorded. The slides and recording will be shared with all participants after the meeting. And please pop your questions into the for the speakers into the question and answer box, and we will answer them during the panel discussion, and some questions, if we have too many, they will be replied in writing. So webinar will be recorded, slides and recordings will be available later on. So thank you very much. Magda, maybe I will now share my presentation here for you, and that is just a brief introduction about the BroilerNet project. So BroilerNet is a European network project for exchange on broiler production. It's funded by the European Union through the Horizon Europe program. And we have been building a network. I will just have a good pointer here. So we have built a network from Finland to Portugal, from Greece to Ireland, and we have 25 partners in 13 countries. And in these countries, there have been one industry partner and one academic partner, and the responsibilities and part in this have been equal. And the project has been going on for 4 years and was finished this summer. So the background to this project was that during one evening in Nunspeet in Netherlands in 2019, a colleague, Paolo Ferraro from Italy, and Birte Stenberg from AVEC, and I and some others, we were talking about that there should be a thematic network within the broiler sector. And the broiler sector in Europe has challenges that is important to try to solve or mitigate in the future. It's sustainable global consumption that will increase in poultry meat, and we need to provide safe and high quality poultry meat to the consumers. And more recently, the Mercosur global instability and supply chain disruption may also challenge the broiler farming. So society has a demand for a more sustainable broiler production, and European Commission wants to bring good practices to the farmer in order to improve health, welfare, and also the sustainability of the production. And a brief background here, there are other thematic networks, and these are for example, the bovine, the innovation, 4D4F within the dairy sector, EU pig, and European Union also has a lot of these EIP agri-operational groups that are important for distributing knowledge to farmers and those who need the things in practical production. I would also like to put the focus on that things might be very innovative. However, a study where I participated, it's a Swedish study where we were looking on life cycle analysis of pig production from the field to sliced smoked ham in the shop. And what we found was that if we look for improving by implementing already available knowledge, it's possible to reduce the global warming potential with up to 50%, and also other environmental factors would be improved. So this was practices and things that were already available and were used by farmers and the full supply chain. So just by spreading information about things that some others already are doing, we can approach a very good performance with increase the nitrogen efficiency, more varied crop rotation, better production management, and as you are mainly a part of Federation of Veterinary Humans, it's also improving animal health and welfare. And if you want to know more about this, you can please send me an email later on, and I will provide you with a scientific paper. So what we have been doing in the BroilerNet is to build the networks on national and also on international level to connect it. We had been fostering interaction between science and practices, and we have collected ready to use innovative good practices. And in order to have a good structure or a reasonable structure for this, we have been focusing on the farm, the animals on the farm, and the farmer. And the three themes have been animal health, that has been coordinated by IRTA, animal welfare, that has been coordinated by FLI in Germany, and environmental sustainability, that has been coordinated by CRPA in Italy. And this is a way to structure. And you will hear more about these themes later on by our presenters. So in general, this approach of BroilerNet has been that we have created 13 broiler innovation networks in the different countries where farmers and other peoples in the sector have been meeting. We have trained facilitators to organize these network meetings in a standard way, so they are as useful as possible. So what we have been asking for is that we ask the farmers and the advisors for sector challenges. For example, the Broiler Innovation Network has in one country considered that there is a specific problem within the broiler farmers. And then we have asked and gone back to these innovative networks to see if there are countries that have good practices that are already available. And then we have collected these sector challenges, the good practices, and information about this have been processed by three thematic expert networks, one in animal health, one in animal welfare, and one in environmental sustainability, in order to see that this is in agreement with scientific knowledge and that it's evidence-based. In the next part, we have selected the best of the good practices, and these best good practices have been analyzed with a cost-benefit analysis, and this is calculation to see what are the financial benefits, but also if there are other benefits with the good practices. Maybe it's not so easy to find a good practice in, for example, reducing contamination of infectious diseases, and it's not can be very hard to find the exact monetary value of this. And then we have disseminated these good practices, and they are available at our website. And we also selected the BroilerNet champions, the best good practices, and the people behind those very good practices have been awarded. So here are pictures from the Broiler Innovation Network meetings, for example, in Finland, in Slovenia, in all the 13 countries. There have been similar groups, and they have been from like 6 to 8 to 10 people up to 50 people, for example, in Poland. And the thematic expert network has been selected or recruited within the various countries, and usually they have all their meetings have been online, and they have also worked through a very structured scheme to see that there is quality insurance of these good practices. And here you can find with this QR code, you know, the dinosaur is the ancestor of the birds, as we know nowadays. So you can use this QR code and see that you enter the BroilerNet Knowledge Hub, where you can find these good practices as fact sheets. There are also videos and other material that is freely available for those who want to use it. And then I would like, with the final words before we have our speakers, I would like to award the Work Package Leader Group, which has been valuable for contributing to this project. And then I also would like to award the Project Advisory Board that has been quite small, but has supported us in a very good way, with Hallar Slisnik from AVEC, Vibke Jansen from FV, and Peter Stevenson from Compassion in World Farming. And then I also would like to acknowledge the Professor Harry Blockhouse, who was chairman and passed away in early this year, tragically. And he is dearly missed by us. So thank you very much and enjoy. And now and here you have the logos of all our partners in the project. And I could also say that we will continue with the BroilerNet 2.0 very soon. So I will stop sharing, and it's a great pleasure for me to now hand over to Marta Serra Cuellar from IRTA, and she is currently working at the CRS Research Center for Animal Health at IRTA as a researcher in animal science, food science, microbiology on bacteria, enteric zoonosis and antimicrobial resistance from a One Health perspective. So thank you for coming and share your expertise within this, and thank you for all your contribution within the BroilerNet project. Please, Marta.
Okay. Can you see my presentation, first slide, and presentation mode?
I can see that, yes.
Okay. So thank you, Stefan, for your presentation. And as you just already mentioned, Natalia Majot has been leading the animal health work package. She could not join us today, so I'm giving the presentation on her behalf. And from IRTA, together with Natalia and myself, Miquel, the third member from IRTA, CRESA, who has participated. CRESA is the Research Center of Animal Health in IRTA. And also participating, and very important, is Ana Toda, who has been our facilitator in Spain, who has helped us a lot by organizing and keeping the Spanish bean working very hard. So let me just use a pointer here, just in case I need it. So for this work package, the animal health, the main aim was to identify the key health challenges currently faced by broiler farmers in Europe, and to define cost-effective best practices to address them. This was run through 3 cycles from 2022 to 2026, where at each cycle, different challenges were collected and the corresponding best practices to address them. This, as already mentioned by Stefan, this has always been a bottom-up approach with participating beans, the Broiler Innovation Network at national level, which then was going to the next step to the thematic innovation network. So putting together different challenges and best practices collected by different countries. And just here is the list of the different team members from the animal health management belonging to these 10 countries, which were the one finally participating here. And well, now I will just briefly summarize the key outcomes from each cycle with each challenge collected and the good practices. So brief outline. For the first cycle, the 3 sector challenges we were selected finally were fighting avian flu, improving biosecurity, and reducing the use of antimicrobials. And overall, 45 good practices were collected, 12 countries participated, and these good practices were distributed, as you can see here, with 10 good practices for fighting avian flu, 18 for improving biosecurity, and 17 for reducing the use of antimicrobials. That these last 2 are more transversal, and the first one, well, considering that avian flu was already a big issue in 2023, this obviously was proposed by many of the beans. So regarding avian flu, most of the good practices were related to procedures, 60%, followed by policy and then infrastructure, and then others. After voting by the 10 members, there was, I mean, for each cycle, for the different good practices, they were voting, and for each cycle and each challenge, there were good practice was the champion, let's say. For among the 5 last that were pre-selected after different rounds of voting. And just as an example, this was the good practice proposed by the German bean, which was a self-assessment tool that could be used by farmers to check the level of risk of avian flu infection at each particular farm. Just in case I run out of time, you have the link of the video, animated video related to this, how this good practice was put in place. So this will be available if you want to click afterwards and see what was it about. Then related with improving biosecurity, most of them obviously had to do with procedures, but also with equipment. And this, I show you this one. This good practice is an interesting one, which is helping to properly use the dedicated equipment, small equipment at each broiler house. This particularly useful. It has to do with those farms. We have several broiler houses, and that each broiler house has to use dedicated small equipment, so not to mixed up between broiler houses. They use this color code for each broiler house to keep each equipment at the corresponding broiler house. And this, in fact, helped to follow good practices on a daily basis, and following properly biosecurity routines within the farm and at each broiler house. Then for the challenge of reducing the antimicrobials, many of them had to do with using feed additives to prevent infection, and therefore reduce the need to use antimicrobials. And this is an example which was chosen among the first top ones, the 5 top ones. This is from the Polish bin, who proposed using a phytobiotic supplement in feeding broiler chickens. Then let's move to the second cycle. These are the 3 sector challenges were identified. That is improving good health, improving chick quality, and reducing lameness problems. Overall, 40 good practices were collected, 12 countries participating, and you can see here the number of good practices for each of them. For reducing lameness problems, there were only 2 good practices collected. So related with improving good health, most of them were the good practices were related to feed, using feed additives. Obviously, we are dealing with good health, but also were important procedures related with keeping the water quality, which was important for several bins. And this is an example of one of the good practices which had to do with improving good microbiome by early probiotic administration at hatch. And then related with improving chick quality, as you can see, most of the good practices identified or proposed were related to procedures. And this is an example of one of the good practices that were collected among the top 5, which is monitoring chicks' health and welfare using bioacoustics, proposed by the Spanish bin. Again, here it is available a video explaining how they use this tool to monitor chick quality and the health of the birds. And finally, to reduce lameness, most of the good practices were related or dealing with procedures, and was an example is, well, in fact, is the winner in this case is the German bin, who proposed these elevated platforms to support the working ability of broilers, and this would help to reduce lambless. But there were others like increasing nighttime duration or preheating the poultry house, were other procedures that were among the top 5. And then finally, for the third cycle, the two in this case, 2 challenges that were proposed were reducing the risk of Salmonella on one hand, and reducing the persistence and recurrence of Enterococcus infections on the second hand. Overall, 34 good practices were proposed or collected among the 12 countries participating. Most of them were dealing with Salmonella, and 10 for Enterococcus. And this, you can see, I mean, how they were distributed, again, mostly related to procedures, but also to water treatment or quality of water. And the champion was, in this case, the one from France, which was about enhanced pest control, enhanced pest control protocol to reduce the risk of Salmonella. So to reduce vectors inside the broiler houses. But other good practices were about, as I said, water quality, using feed additives, and also vaccination was also proposed. And for Enterococcus, most of the good practices were related to water treatment, and others with procedures. Different water treatments were proposed to increase the quality of the water, and procedures. This is the example of Greece, the Greek bean, ready to enhance the biosecurity of the farm. So to control Enterococcus the broiler houses. Again, this is the link of the video explaining how what are these biosecurity measures and how to properly implement them. So all in all, the main outcomes from this work package, the animal health work package, have been these over 100 submitted challenges, over or almost 120 good practices submitted, good number, 40 of abstract and fact sheets related to this, and overall 3 webinars were performed, or one related with avian flu, the second one about avian coccidiosis, and the third one on Enterococcus. And some papers, some scientific papers are coming, one recently published, in fact, together with the welfare. So just to finish, which are the challenges we have encountered? On one hand is the definition of good practices, because and to find new and innovative practices. And linked to this is that to identify this, we asked to different beans that to have data about these good practices, to see how they have been effective and how they work. And sometimes it was difficult to get the information we asked for. And also sometimes difficulties in maintaining the engagement with all beans and tents throughout the three cycles. But in the end, for us, the take-home message is that health challenges are similar across European countries, and that many good practices to face these challenges are also already applied in many farms in different countries. So common points. And then just with the experience of the project is that in the end, cooperation is always beneficial to finding solutions. And also important, I think, is that learning from each other is rewarding and is fun. And I must say that we have enjoyed a lot participating in this project and working on all this. And I think that when talking about this among the different partners and participants, we all agreed that it's also always beneficial and also fun. So with this, I finish my presentation, and I finish. I don't know if I have closed or what I have done. I am connected. Yes.
Thank you very much, Marta. You need to stop sharing.
Okay, that's I wasn't sure if I had or not. 1 second. Here.
In the meanwhile, I put the the link to the BroilerNet Knowledge Hub in the chat now, so it's available for everybody. But thank you very much, Marta, for your good take-home messages and your insights and wealth of experience. It is now my pleasure to introduce the next speaker, that is Lars Schrader from Friedrich Loeffler Institute in Celle in Germany. And Lars Schrader studied biology with a focus on animal behavior, and from 1998 he has worked at the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology in Zurich on farm animal behavior. Since 2002, he is head of the Institute of Animal Welfare and Animal Husbandry at FLI in Celle, and his main research area cover the analysis of behavioral demands of farm animals, the development and validation of indicators for animal welfare, and the improvement of livestock production system. He is a member of several panels dealing with welfare and housing in farm animals. Lars, it's nice to collaborate with you, and please give your presentation.
Thank you, Stefan, and the same for you, and thank you very much for your quite long introduction of myself. And I think you should now see my screen and the...
Yes, and you need to click it in presentation mode.
Yeah, okay.
That's great. Thank you.
So I'm happy to present now some results and information on the work package on animal welfare. However, to be honest, I'm not the right person. The right persons would have been Julia Malchow and Margret von Holt-Wenker. They worked at the FLI at our institute, and they were doing all the work and were responsible for the work package. And in addition, Wiebke van Zeggern, she was from the industry partner from the German Broiler Farmer Association, and she also did most of the work in collaboration with our institute. However, unfortunately, they can make it today and asked me to present the results or some results of the work package on animal welfare. So I will try to do it quite short, and I just give you a short overview on the priority challenges and the champions which had been identified and selected during the last 3 years and a little bit longer. So the one big challenge and priority challenge was on farmer training to improve animal welfare, and there the champion was training for internal audits regarding on-farm euthanasia, which is a quite difficult problem for the farmers, and we found one training tool in order to train for internal audits, which can help to improve the welfare of the animals a lot. Another priority challenge for animal welfare had been genetics, and we did not find good examples, or yes, of course, there were also good examples to deal exactly with the genetics of the animals. For instance, change the genetics to slower growing animals. But in this case, the champions was elected. It was again the elevated platforms for enrichment. And the elevated platforms already had been mentioned by Marta for the animal health work package. And of course, there is always an overlap and a synergy between animal health and animal welfare aspects. Another priority challenge was the barn climate to improve animal welfare. And here we selected a champion, or the champion was selected on a foot health program. Oops, I would like to have the next slide. Yes, that's another challenge had been identified on welfare indicators, and here the winner and the champion was examples for an animal welfare self-assessment, which can be done by the farmer and the farm workers themselves on farm in order to improve and in order to assess certain welfare problems in their own farm. Chick management was also a priority challenge, and here preheating of the barn was selected as a champions. Catching was a priority challenge, and here an entire package of measures to reduce stress and injuries during catching of animals was a champion. Thinning is also done in many farms for broiler chicken, and here we identified the champions, which was on a package of measures, of different measures to reduce the stress during thinning. And also light is an important key feature for broiler animal welfare. And here the winner, the best good practice was a technique in order to optimize light management to meet the broiler needs. The name here was jungle light, and the light conditions could be automatically adapted to the natural conditions in the jungle, where the ancestor of poultry stems from. So these were the list of priority challenges and of the champions. And my personal key takeaways from this project was, and in particular regarding the work package on animal welfare, was that we find a vast amount and a number of very good practices. So 111 in total were identified. So there are already many good practices in place, and that's a good it's a good news, of course. And we also learned that many of the good practices are already implemented in certain regions, but not in others. And by that, certain regions can learn how other regions in other conditions deal with animal welfare issues. And of course, at the end, the implementation of good practices depends on farm-specific cost-benefit analysis, and quality programs and/or welfare labels can heavily support the implementation. So for many good practices, the farmer will need some more money because the costs might become higher. And of course, then quality programs and/or welfare labels can support this by offering extra money for these efforts to the farmer. We also learned during this project that artificial intelligence can help to improve animal welfare, and its use is becoming increasingly widespread in broiler chicken farming. And that's not the end so far. There will be very many further developments, I'm quite sure about that. And last but not least, the improvement of animal welfare can also improve job satisfaction, and by that the human well-being. So it makes the people happier if the welfare of the animals is high. I will not give you an overview about all or a lot of a high number or many different good practices, but I selected one which already had been mentioned, the elevated structures, which you can see here on the picture. And the first question, of course, in order to think about, is this really needed for broiler chicken because they are so fast growing, they are quite calm, they have low activities. And this is one example from a study which had been done by Julia Malchow at our institutes, and she tested whether these fast-growing chickens, the Ross 308, use elevated structures at different heights, and either or in parallel, she offered either perches and also these grids in form of platforms, and you should also recognize the ramp in between the elevated structures, which is needed in order to have to enable the animals to climb on the structures. And the results on the left side show you that with increasing week of age, the animals very increasingly use the different elevated structures. And you can see also that we do not only test the fast-growing Ross broiler chicken, but also the dual purpose chicken, which were of course lighter, and also the male chicken from a layer line from low and brown. You can see over the age of the animals there was an increase in the use of the elevated platforms. And if you look on the perch or on the question whether they prefer the perches or the elevated grids for nighttime roosting, you can see that the Ross clearly prefer the grids for roosting at night, the dual and the LB, the dual also, the dual purpose strains, they also prefer the grids. But the layer line chicken, they they did not. They prefer both in the same manner. So the message from this study was that even the fast-growing broiler chicken will use an elevated structure for nighttime roosting, but probably because they are less active and they are less able to move, they will clearly prefer the grids in this study. We also, and this is also a study run by Julia Malchow, we equipped the elevated platforms with sensors in order to be able to automatically assess the number of animals on the platform. And this was done in this example also with a fast-growing broiler chicken throughout the entire life of these chickens, starting from the first day of life until slaughtering. And interestingly, you can see here that they already started a very, very early day of life, but they start using the platform mainly during the day, and then there is a change after, let's say, 19, 18 days or 20 days at least, where they mostly use then after that the elevated platforms during night, but still continue to use them during the day. So this is a typical nighttime roosting behavior shown by poultry. And this is still evident for the fast-growing broiler chicken. In practice, you can find and we will recommend different types of elevated structures. On the left hand, on the left side, you can see closed and littered elevated platforms which are used, and these are additionally equipped with balls of straw, which is an additional enrichment material for the animals, or often you can see also the animals sitting on the balls. And also on the right side, you can see in a practical farm elevated platforms with grids. And our hypothesis is that regarding, for instance, foot health problems or foot pad lesions, this can be even better compared to the closed and littered elevated platforms, because here the chickens resting on this grid platforms, they may have the advantage that the foot pads can become dry, because they are not in the often wet litter on the ground floor. In general, the positive effects on animal welfare by elevated structures, either by the closed platforms and littered platforms, or by the grid platforms, are that they support the natural resting behavior of the broiler chicken. They increase, in particular in the early life of the birds, they increase the exploration behavior, because it's a third dimension also for the broiler chicken, and they can allow avoidance or escape from agonistic interactions. We know, and several studies showed, that offering elevated structures increase the locomotor activity of the animals, and by that also the muscle bone system is trained, which can have the positive effect on lameness and walking ability, Marta already mentioned. And as I mentioned on the last slide, in particular, the grid, the platforms with the grids reduce the contact to the often moisty litter, and this may result in less foot pad dermatitis. So that's my main lesson I learned, and one example. And by that, I thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Lars. And I would like to add on to that with the cost-benefit analysis, it was also found that this is profitable for the farmer to make this investment. And the bigger farms, the more profitable I would say it would be, as there are basic investments. So
and this is true in particular if they can count this as usable space for the farms.
Yeah, and more healthy animals.
It's a win-win situation.
Yeah, thank you very much, Lars. And now it's a pleasure for me to introduce Annunziata Tina Palamara, and she comes from CRPA in Reggio Emilia in Italy, and she's a researcher in animal production, and she has a strong focus on environmental sustainability, animal welfare, and innovation. And in her background, she has been driven by the goal of combining production efficiency with environmental responsibility and contributing to the development of more sustainable and forward-looking practices. So, Tina, please, you're welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Stefan. So I'm sharing my screen right now. Is that like full screen right now?
We saw it for a short while, so please share it again.
Oops.
Yeah. Yes.
It's not
excellent.
split.
Excellent.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so good morning, everybody, and thank you, Stefan, for this wonderful introduction, and welcome to everyone joining us today. Let's go straight to the point. Over the next few minutes, we will look at how environmental sustainability intersects with the poultry industry. I have now to look to a bigger screen. Let's start with a question. So why environmental sustainability matter in broiler production? So when we talk about poultry meat production, one of the aspects that immediately stands out is the significant improvement in production efficiency achieved over the last few decades. So as you may know, animals grow faster, use nutrients increasingly efficiently, and the amount of resources required to produce 1 kilogram of meat has progressively decreased. So it's clear that we have made important progress in terms of production efficiency. But we can basically summarize this concept as producing more with less, as less feed per kilogram of meat, better feed conversion, faster growth, and a more efficient use of resources. However, production efficiency does not automatically mean environmental sustainability. And I think that I want to share this concept with you. It's important to make a distinction between efficiency improvements and the broader environmental paradigm. When we talk about efficiency, we mainly look at how efficiently resources are converted into animal production. But environmental sustainability requires us to take a broader perspective and ask what the overall environmental impact of the production system is. So the sustainability of a broiler production system is in fact the result of the interaction of several factors. So I'm talking about feeding, energy and water consumption, litter and manure management, and for example, the emission associated with the production process. So for example, improving feeding is sincerely positive because fewer resources are required to produce the same amount of meat. But we also need to consider, to take into account what happens to the nutrients that are not retained by the animal, how manure is managed, and how much energy and water are used, for example. So the important point that I want to share with you in this case is that environmental sustainability cannot be assessed by looking at a single parameter. We need to consider the production system as a whole. So this is the starting point of the work package 2 of the BroilerNet project, which is focused, as already Stefan said, on environmental sustainability. So the overall aim of our work, so I'm talking about work package 2, is to reduce the environmental impact of poultry production within the European Union with a particular focus on protecting air, water and soil quality. So more specifically, we aim to improve how manure is managed and applied in order to limit water pollution in line with the, as you know, the nitrates directive. But another key objective is to reduce emission from poultry houses, especially ammonia and the fine particulate matter. But also, in addition, as you know, farms are expected to comply with the environmental permit requirements, adopt the BAT, so the best available techniques, and to contribute to achieving the EU air quality targets. Okay, so if we take this broader perspective, we can identify the three key system drivers. There are and these three key system drivers are particularly relevant when we talk about environmental sustainability in broiler production. So the first one, as you can see, is diet and nutrition. So feed is a key component because it represents not only an important part of the production cost, but also a major contributor to the environmental footprint of the, of course, poultry production. Therefore, the selection and formulation of raw materials, nutrients, efficiency, and the overall environmental impact of feed production are all important aspects to consider, to take into account. So as you can see, the second driver is energy and water. So energy is required for several activities within the broiler house, particularly for heating, cooling, and ventilation. So the challenge here is therefore to optimize energy consumption while maintaining an appropriate environment for the birds. So at the same time, talking about water, as you know, water is an essential resource, and its efficient use and management are also important from an environmental perspective. So last but not least, the waste and emissions. So this includes litter and manure management, but also the mitigation of ammonia emission and the impact of broiler production on the nutrient cycle. So these aspects are particularly interesting because they are closely connected not only to environmental sustainability, but also to animal health and welfare. So we can talk about an holistic approach, an holistic view. So I think it's important to highlight that these three areas are not really independent from each other, but they are interconnected. So just an example. Ventilation has an impact on energy consumption, but at the same time, it's essential for maintaining air quality and controlling litter moisture, for example. So another question that I want to ask, that I ask myself, is where can we act? So once we have identified these three main systems drivers, the next step is to translate them into concrete areas of action. So as you can see, the first one is environmental innovation, and then there is operational management. So related to the first one, this refers to the adoption of technologies and infrastructure that can reduce the environmental impact of the farm. So, for example, include, as you can see, renewable energy technologies such as solar PV panels, as we will talk about later on about that. Improved thermal insulation of the poultry house and heat recovery system. Regarding the second one, so the operational management, which is perhaps even more directly connected to everyday farm practices. So this action area includes, for example, water conservation, sustainable litter management, and practices that support animal welfare, for example. So the important point that I want to share with you is that not all improvements require new technology or major investments. Sometimes, changes in management practices can have a significant impact on both environmental performance and animal welfare. So, as I said before, we can talk about an holistic approach. Similarly, appropriate litter management can contribute to reducing ammonia emissions, while at the same time improving the condition experienced by the birds. So these two areas, so innovation and management, should not be considered as an alternatives, but as they are complementary approaches. So this concept, this big concept, brings us to the good practices identified during these years. So regarding today, of course, we talk about the practices, some of the practices related to environmental sustainability, but also rather than looking only at technologies, we also looked at during our collection. We also looked at practical solutions that can be implemented at farm level, and that can provide benefits for the environment, the animals, and ideally for both. So the first one of the challenges that we faced during the project is energy management. So as you know, energy management in broiler production is often an underestimated challenge, as the heating and the mechanical ventilation are used to maintain animal welfare and stable housing condition. But they also represent the main energy-related challenges of the farm. Energy audits are key to identify inefficiencies and improvement opportunities, while solutions include better building design and insulation, more efficient equipment, and smart technologies for real-time monitoring. In addition, renewable energy, especially solar PV panel and net zero building, can significantly reduce both environmental impact and production cost. So the champion, the best practice that was selected as a champions by our expert was electricity from photovoltaics. So here you can see a picture an actual picture of the farm. As you can see, these are the houses and the PV panels on the roof. And also you can scan the QR code if you want to learn more. As already Stefan shared the link in the chat, which will link you to our Knowledge Hub, and you can learn more here. But related to this good practice, this practice is about roof leasing, a roof leasing model where farms rent their roof to specialized companies in exchange for free renovation and insulation upgrades, plus access to part of the photovoltaic energy produced. So these allow farms to improve building performance without upfront investments. So the result is actually multiple benefits, as lower cost, improved energy efficiency, better animal welfare, and higher sustainability, while also generating a surplus renewable energy that can support the local grid and provide broader social value. So this practice actually deals with the economy, environment, and social. So it's clearly an holistic approach. Just to be clear, this farm is located in Piedmont, near the city of Turin, and the farmer is really happy to share his knowledge. If you want to visit the farm, he will be, I guess, really happy about that. Another challenge that I want to talk about with you today is related to carbon neutrality. Carbon neutrality is a key challenge in livestock production. Even, as you may know, even if broiler farming is one of the most efficient livestock systems, of course, it generates important emissions linked mainly to feed production and manure management. So I'm talking about including greenhouse gases like methane and nitrous oxide, as well as ammonia. So this contributes to climate change, air pollution, and eutrophication. The champions that was selected by the TANs is a transfer of spent litter to produce fertilizer. So this champion related to this challenge is a cooperative approach where farmers process spent litter into fertilizer through composting and pelletizing. So the product is then marketed and used as a certified fertilizer under, of course, the EU regulation. This is a key practice in high density areas of broiler farming. But the practice reduces the emission of GHG greenhouse gases from the production of fertilizer by 55% compared to, of course, an industrial production of equivalent chemical fertilizer. Also, this system can reduce environmental pressure by lowering nitrogen loads, avoiding storage and spreading issues, and replacing synthetic fertilizers. This process significantly reduces greenhouse gas emissions. Overall, it turns a waste problem into a circular resource, improving both environmental performance and farm sustainability. Again, here you can see the QR code. Feel free to scan it if you want to learn more. Finally, the last challenge and champion that I want to share with you today is carbon auditing. And the champion is standardized carbon accounting for livestock production. So the aim of carbon auditing is to identify where the highest emissions occur, improve efficiency, but also reduce the environmental impact, of course, and meet certification requirements. So the assessment covers the entire production chain, from feed production to energy use, manure management and processing. So using a life cycle assessment approach, so LCA, we know that feed is the main hotspot, often responsible for more than half of total emissions. So for this reason, establishing common standards and baseline is essential to ensure comparability between farms, and also to allow proper benchmarking of environmental performance. So the champions, here you can see, I tried to resume this practice in this slide. Here, this practice is related to a climate platform developed by the QS German certification body, which provides a standardized tool for calculating farm and product level carbon footprints using detailed primary data from farms. This procedure ensures accurate and also reliable results. So, as a team, what we learned during the project, during all these years of work dedicated to the broiler project. So, BroilerNet actually highlighted that national priority differ across countries, which means that the relevance of challenges and solution also varies. So, in addition, production systems are highly diverse, ranging from intensive to more fragmented livestock structures. So as a result, both the challenges faced and the effectiveness of potential solution depends strongly on the specific national and local context. So that's a key point. Here you can see in this picture, you can see that actually chickens everywhere, but the density it's not the same all over Europe. Finally, the main takeaways of BroilerNet is that the overall key message from BroilerNet is that the future of broiler production must focus on sustainability and efficiency. But not only, of course, but this means reducing environmental impacts such as carbon emissions, ammonia, and particulate matter, while also improving resource efficiency at farm level. So at the same time, farms need to become more self-sufficient in energy, water, and feed, moving towards a more circular production system. So actually, that's the end of my presentation. I hope it was clear.
Thank you very much, Tina. And please, all you participants who have been joining later, please put in your questions for the speakers into the question and answer box. And we will now have a panel discussion, and we will try to answer the questions that are coming. But we who are working in the BroilerNet project, we would very much like to have the input from our distinguished panel guest members, and there are three of these. It's Peter Stevenson from Compassion in World Farming. He has been working with animal welfare for nearly 3 decades and played a key role in securing EU bans on intensive systems that are detrimental to animal welfare, and he is establishing animals' legal status as sentient being. He is educated lawyer from Cambridge and a United Nations FAO lead author. He was awarded an Officer of British Empire in 2020 and the RSPCA Lord Erskine Award in 2004. Peter is also highly active in media as a spokesperson, and he regularly features in BBC, The Times, The Guardian, etc. And then we from AVEC has Nadia Shaldoun. She's a senior policy advisor focusing on the work on EU policies related to animal health and welfare, food safety and food quality. Nadia collaborates closely with AVEC members on issues related to avian influenza, assessing the impact on the EU market and supporting mitigation measurements, including vaccinations. And then we also have Vivke Jansen from FVE, and she's policy leader and cover veterinary policy, health policy, public health policy files, and she's based at the permanent office of FVE in Brussels, and she's supporting veterinary-related policies, managing advocacy programs, and conduct research in European veterinary issues within FVE. And her role in Peter and Vibke has been part of the advisory board for BroilerNet, and Nadia Shaldoun is from AVEC, and from AVEC we also had Harald Schliesnig. So I would like to ask you some questions, and I would like to address it in order. So first Peter, then Nadia and Vibke, and then I will change order. But we have 3 questions that we would like to ask you. And first is, where do you think collaborative projects like BroilerNet fits in and help? And please, Peter, would you like to start?
Yes, thank you. Look, the BroilerNet project has been, magnificent in bringing together from across Europe, so many, good practices, particularly, for example, in terms of litter management, thinning, elevated platforms. But now looking where we need to go next, what it's not done and what it never claimed to try to do was what it was trying to do was look at within the status quo, how can we improve it? But it hasn't looked, and this is not a criticism, it's defining where we need to go. For example, the 2023 report by the European Food Safety Authority identified a number of what they called main recommendations. One of this was that we need to use much slower growing birds from a welfare point of view, that we need to end feed restriction in the breeder section. Crucially, we need to hugely reduce stocking density. EFSA said that maximum density should be 11 kilos per square metre. That's about 5 birds, where stocking densities often are about 17 birds. So none of these were addressed. Also, although some suggestions were made for how to improve catching, in the end, however much you improve it, the current method in which 2 or 3 birds are being carried upside down by one leg, in each worker's hands. This causes immense kind of injuries and suffering. We need to rethink catching so that birds are being caught and carried upright. Finally, again, BroilerNet didn't try to look at slaughter, but over half of our broilers, probably quite a lot over half, are still being stunned in the electrical water bath. It's well over 20 years since scientific research has showed how inhumane that method is. We really need to change the way we slaughter. So lots of good things, but lots still to do. Thanks. Thanks, Stefan.
Thank you very much. And now, Nadia, please, would you like to give your opinion or?
Yes, sure.
Yeah, please.
Thank you very much. First of all, thank you very much for inviting us. I'm in AVEC, and I'm here on behalf of Arad, who's not available, but very pleased that we can participate in this. I think maybe last event of BroilerNet as the project is closing. So I've been listening carefully, and we were already part of the previous final events, and indeed this is a very, very interesting project. And the way we see it as at AVEC is that we really believe it sits very well and exactly actually between the research and the farmers, the different companies and the policy. So I think that's the very positive point around BroilerNet as a project, because it starts from the challenges that are faced at farm level. So it is actually a bottom-up approach and not the top-down approach. So it's very concrete in that sense, and it's very relevant then, because the challenges, like you've explained, are defined and they've been selected by the operators who are on a daily basis producing the broilers. So to us, it's a very well established, and it was a well-designed project in that sense, the way it was developed and then implemented. And really, I would say that as a very important point to us, I think what's important now is the continuity of this project. So I heard you saying in the introduction that you're looking at BroilerNet 2.0. I'm very looking forward to understanding more about this, because indeed such projects to us are successful when its outputs continue to live after the funding ends, really. And I think that's really what would be very important, is all the work that's been established, the knowledge hub, the very good practices that have been listed, how the importance is to see how this can, further be shared and extended and expanded, and then again fit into a continuous improvement line for such a research project. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And then Vibke.
Yes, thank you very much.
Please, yeah.
So I always, when we joined the project and learned about all the fantastic initiatives, found it really striking how natural and almost total integration and as Nadia mentioned, bottom-up approach of welfare, animal health, and then sustainability came together with the cost-benefits calculation. And this was really innovative, and this is really something that is unmatched. And it was demonstrating that these innovations, they were really more effective, maybe most effective, when farmers and veterinarians and advisors and researchers all together co-create solutions so that these good and best practices and case studies really then became applicable and then relevant for people that are really working with these broilers. And they became available and transferable between countries and production systems, so that these, and as Peter mentioned, with the slower growing strains, that this is something it is relevant to then propose solutions for all types of productions. So that is really something that we really valued in this.
Thank you very much. I have another question, and that is what is your organization doing on the topic of sustainable broiler production? And I would like Nadia to bring up the AVEC position here.
Yeah, thank you very much. Well, I mean, trying to address this question very concretely, we actually have an active, a dedicated sustainability working group with our members, as we have other working groups too. And within this working group, so meeting on a regular basis during the year, each year, the idea is to cover all those questions around how to improve the sustainability of the sector, the environmental impact, the resource efficiency, the resilience, and all this is of course linked to the health and the welfare of the animals. Also, without forgetting the competitiveness and how to practically implement such good practices or innovation we're looking at. So this is a continuous work that we're doing with our members. And then to give you a concrete example of something that we were able to achieve. So back in 2023, we were also actually part of a research project, and we were able to organize a dedicated event to speak about sustainability and more, but it was sustainability in practice with a spotlight on our sector. And actually it was precisely to show that the sector is not only talking about sustainability, but we're also, doing things on the ground. So it was a very pragmatic event where we had indirect members then, because our members are national associations, so members of our members, they came in, and we had a company from Spain, from France, and from Germany, and they were able to present already implemented measures aiming at improving an aspect of the sustainability umbrella, because as we could see, it's a multifactorial, multiple parameters are involved into this sustainability question. So this is something that to us is, I would say, one of the key things that we're doing. It's offering this platform to share the knowledge, the best practices that we have within our members. And that's why I think we very much appreciate the BroilerNet project, because it's doing the work we're also doing with our members, but with a different also, or I would say maybe sometimes a higher impact, because you mentioned that you were able to act at national level, but also international level. And you were able also with the project to gather the researchers, the vets, and which sometimes to us is more difficult to reach out. But I would say the essence of it is the same. So there is this knowledge sharing, practical knowledge sharing amongst our members that we are doing, and with the external audience, like we did with the event, to inform and to always, always aim for this continuous improvement, because that's when you share that then you can improve or discover new things and then innovate within your area. So I mean, to us, we're doing our best, and we are very open to make sure that sustainability is not only a buzzword, but it is something that we do on the field, so it gets practical, measurable, and realistic in a way.
Thank you. Vibke, please.
Thank you. So very similar to AVEC, FWE is an organization of organizations. So FWE is the umbrella organization of the veterinary profession, and we run a veterinary public health and sustainability working group which just ended its term, and there obviously the results of these of those projects, they are shared. We ask for when there are consultations, we will gather members' input on specific topics to provide then veterinary leadership on disease prevention and responsible use of medicines, on sustainability, on animal welfare aspects, and this through formal positions. So the veterinary profession takes position on specific topics. We have positions on animal health visits, on coccidia management, on disease prevention, on biosecurity, integrated health management. These are the ways how the FWE takes then position on different aspects, and for example, for BroilerNet, we participated in many workshops on slower growing strains, on webinars, and for example on occasions like today to share this then wide and far how important the work was that BroilerNet completed.
Thank you. And then Peter, please.
Together with other animal welfare organizations, a few years ago, we developed what's called the Better Chicken Commitment, which deals with many of the welfare problems I outlined a few minutes ago. There's now 380, European food businesses that are committed to the standards of the Better Chicken Commitment, including major retailers and food service operators. And we didn't just create the Better Chicken Commitment, but our food business team works very closely with food businesses to help them, get to the point where they can implement the commitment. So they will, for example, if retailers or food service operators want to sell or use chickens produced to these higher standards, we will help put them in touch with farmers who are, rearing their chickens to those standards. Sadly, a number of large UK food businesses have now dropped out of the scheme. They've introduced their own really, much weaker scheme. Nonetheless, the Better Chicken Commitment, is delivering real improvements across Europe. Thank you, Stefan.
Thank you. And then a final question with looking into the future with what do you think would be the next step for the broiler sector? And I would like to start with Vibke and then Peter and then Nadia. Vibke, please.
So really building on what BroilerNet already achieved, to go further in this, to opt for more integration, to offer solutions for all production systems, and really change and implement better practices so that the daily life of broilers in Europe will continue to improve on animal health and on animal welfare and on sustainability. So the integration of those and implemented that on daily life, this is definitely an ongoing challenge. And what we really see is that the best practices are ideally scalable for all types, and that ideally this would go then beyond broilers, but maybe then as well covering layers and turkeys. That is as well an area where there's much work that is still to do to improve their daily lives. Thank you.
Thank you. Peter, I think you mentioned some of your perspective that you would like to see, and but please.
Yes, I think we've got to find a way of resolving the potential tensions between welfare and sustainability. If we're going to use slower growing broilers, you're going to need more feed per chicken because they're going to live longer. So we'll need more arable land per chicken. I've done a calculation that if the EU wanted to use slower growing chickens, but not use any more land for feed, then the EU broiler sector would have to be reduced by about 30%. And these kind of problems need to be considered. Now, this reduction may seem alarming to some, but the Eat Lancet Commission's planetary health diet suggests that people should eat about 30 grams of chicken, per person per day, whereas in the EU we're eating, 79 grams per person per day, according to FEFAC. There is room within healthy, nutritious diets for a reduction. The other closely connected problem are heat waves and droughts. They're driving a reduction in crop yields, and yet we're using, the Commission says we're using almost two-thirds of EU cereals to feed animals, mainly broilers and pigs. This can't go on. We really need to reduce the amount of cereals that we're feeding to farmed animals, because we can feed many more people if these are used for direct human consumption. Not an argument for vegetarianism, it's an argument for reducing the sector so that we can sort of deal with this potential conflict between welfare and environment. So I think there's some really major questions that all of us need to work together to really think about. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Peter. Nadia, please.
Yes, thank you very much. Well, I mean, to continue on this, I would say that the solution to stop this conflict between sustainability and welfare is the balance. We need a balanced way of producing, not only broilers, of course, but in general, livestock. And so we have to acknowledge the pros and the cons on both sides. So to us, the next step after this project ends and in general is to keep improving. Of course, that's what we said. So we need to be into a continuous improvement objective, improving the environmental aspect, performance, the resilience, of course. You mentioned it, the speaker mentioned it, we need better prevention, practical welfare improvements. Yes, of course, we agree with that. Circularity, which we're already into, but which we need to improve, of course. But all this transition and this continuous improvement must be feasible. And this is something that we've explained already, and there we agree, especially when we face indeed different challenges like the climate challenges, the disease pressure, and also one that is very important is the import competitions, because that's something we shouldn't forget about. So improvement requires investment and realistic targets in terms of transition period or in terms of achievements. So sustainability and competitiveness, they're not opposites. It works together, because with a competitive EU broiler production sector, then that's what allows the investment to improve the different parameters we've mentioned. So to us, that's something that is very important for the next step. We need to really focus on the feasibility of any improvement we look at and the competitiveness, because if these are ignored, then we risk weakening the poultry sectors and the producers who are looking at who are looking at improving and who are expected from the outside audience, if I can say, and policymakers and vets, etc., who are looking at delivering higher standards and improved sustainability. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nadia. And we are running over for a couple of minutes, so I would like to express my sincere thank you to our panel, Nadia, Peter, and Wibke, and to the speakers, Marta, Lars, and Tina, for giving a nice presentation and different approaches to this. And Lars put in the chat a link to the scientific paper produced by some of the collaborators in the BroilerNet project, Bridging the Gap, a comparative analysis of the industry approach, which would be like the BroilerNet, how we have harvested information, and the scientific EFSA report on broiler health and welfare in Europe. And then, Wibke, we need to, before we close this, we should note that there is a current active survey within with the veterinary medicine gaps and needs for geese and ducks. So please, those of you who would like to answer this survey, please scan the QR code and fill in this survey.
Yeah. So this is one of the activities that we do. We realize that as well in other areas, animal health is sometimes impacted because we don't have the tools at hand that we would need. If you ever were in a situation where you haven't had the tools at hand for geese and for ducks, please let us know, share this with us, and we will direct our advocacy efforts towards closing this gap. Thank you.
And thank you very much, Vibke. And thank you all for joining today's webinar. I didn't see any questions from the in the chat or in the question and answer function. Maybe you were overwhelmed by the information you got. But on behalf of being the moderator of this webinar, I thank you all for participating, and the discussion will be continuing, and there will be some form of BroilerNet 2.0 and FV, and we'll definitely continue with the activities within the poultry sector, as you know. So thank you very much. I hereby close this webinar. Thank you.